This week on Fighting Fraud with AARP Connecticut, criminals targeting job seekers.
In reality, almost any job title can potentially be a scam posting.
We'll tell you about the most common job scams out there, and a new job opportunity that seems like a dream come true takes a sudden turn.
I started to get that feeling in the pit of my stomach that maybe something wasn't right.
How Tim spotted the scam in the nick of time. Plus,
as employment scams make a resurgence, we'll tell you the red flags to watch out for.
And a scam where the criminal tries to make the victim a part of the process.
And all they're doing is facilitating the theft of that merchandise and then shipping it over to the fraudsters overseas.
How to know if you're being targeted by a reshipping job scam.
Welcome to Fighting Fraud with AARP Connecticut. We have a really interesting show planned for you today. As someone who has helped the 50-plus population and other generations strategize ways to find jobs, this topic is one I'm really passionate about. But first, a reminder, we would love to hear from you. Is there a certain scam you would like to spread awareness about? Comment below and we'll consider it for a future show. Today we're talking about job seekers being targeted by criminals. So what do these specific fraudulent tactics include? Here's what we mean by an employment scam.
So the fraudsters take advantage of every situation, whether it's a fortunate or unfortunate situation, and they target individuals that are looking for jobs or changes in their profession. And the job description usually doesn't sound that bad. It sounds pretty good. So you're like, I get to stay at home. The job doesn't seem very stressful. And 3, they're going to pay me a lot of money. So how could that be wrong? But as most frauds that we're seeing nowadays, the fraudster takes their time. The more time they get to know you, to interact with you, the less likely you're going to think it's a fraud. So in these type of scams, they will set up interviews, they will send you contracts, they will make it look like they'll even set up a fake website for this particular company that you're going to be working for, or steal somebody's website address and say that this is the company you'll be working for. What they're hoping is you're not going to do due diligence and research. And again, they will take their time to lessen and to have you put your guard down. So all of a sudden, they need personal identifying information in order to get you enrolled at Human Resources. And they also need your bank account and routing number in order to start getting your payroll set up. So that's what we call the work from home scam.
It's important to note that these criminals are using manipulation tactics to get what they want. I think it's a common misperception that it's some guy in his mom's basement dialing people one by one. But really, these are criminal entities that work like businesses and have experience in psychological tactics. So if you are targeted or you are a victim of a scam, it's not your fault. Next up, here are a few red flags to look out for.
Beware of job offers without an interview or those that are made on the spot. A legitimate company will want to put you through your paces. They're going to want to learn more about you and see if you're the right fit. So if you get a job offer on the spot, that's a red flag.
Who is this person? Just like when you get the phone call or the email or the text, we really don't know who they are and what their intentions are.
What you should do, instead of clicking on any links in these job offers that you receive unsolicited, is look up the company online. See if it actually exists. Pick up the phone and call it and say, are you hiring? There was a woman in Connecticut who did her research. She found that company. She found their website. Unfortunately, this was an imposter scam. These scammers were pretending to be a real company. And so because she saw the legitimate website and knew it was a real company, she didn't question it when she was hired practically on the spot.
Secondly, is this person that I'm talking to, have I met them in person, or will they go on camera with me? If I can't meet them in person and they won't, show me their face, another huge red flag. And then thirdly, once I get down the process, if they're asking me to pay for something in advance, or if they're offering to send me a check to cover my expenses, that's the biggest red flag of all, because that's how these scams work. They either want your money up front, or they're going to send you a big check and then suddenly turn around and ask for it back.
Thanks for those important red flags to watch out for. Now, Seth is here to talk to you about specific ways criminals are using the onboarding process to target potential victims.
If you do a normal job, you're going to give them your social security number. You're going to give them your address. You're going to want to set up direct deposit, so you're going to give them your banking number. And so sometimes these jobs are really just a ruse to get all of your personal information and your financial information. So now they have access for it. The job actually never materialized. Like once they get all that from you, they have everything they want and you never hear from them again. So that's another thing. That's another sort of great point of why it's really important to be verifying with the actual company. Because a lot of times it's, people are suspicious of a kind of a fly-by-night company and an offer that's too good to be true. So these criminals will sort of impersonate a legitimate business that you know and trust. And that's why it's important to always go to that business's website and verify that the job you're applying for actually does exist.
As someone who works with job seekers, I know it can be easy to get caught up in the process if a potential employer is moving fast and seems excited to hire you immediately. Tim is going to tell us about his personal experience with that mentality and how he realized what was happening just in time to stop the scam.
I had submitted my resume and done everything. I had gone through the actual job description and everything else. It was a legitimate company. The company was actually legitimate. It was a reputable job searching site that I was on. So I'm like, I felt pretty confident in the fact that I was, everything was fine. And so I sent the resume off. I got a response maybe like an hour later. So it kind of surprised me, but I was kind of excited at the same time when I did it. And so we started communicating through the website. And as we're communicating through the website, he goes, I would love you to have an interview with our interview consultant. And that's where things started to get a little bit different, because we started going through messenger apps that you don't know. It kind of hides numbers and things like that. And so it was really, it was really weird. They sent me interview questions over email. And I was just to type them out and send them back. And then once I did that, we were communicating back and forth by text message only. Was the only way that we communicated back and forth. Nothing ever through voice, anything like that. And so once I did all of that, I started to get that feeling in the pit of my stomach that maybe something wasn't right. It was a technology-based job, so it was remote, so they were going to send me all of the equipment I needed, all of that stuff. And then they sent me this paper copy of a check that they said was legitimate and said, go ahead, you can deposit this, and we're going to put you, that way we have that deposit to make sure we can send you this amount, okay? And at that point, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, something's not right here. I'm like, time out. I'm like, there's no way a bank is going to accept this. They know us as a company, blah, blah, blah. Tried to get me go to do it. And ultimately, it turned out to be a scam that, to this day, it got a long ways. I feel, as much as I wanted to trust my gut, I also got excited about the prospect of that job and everything else too. So it was one of those things that, looking back, there were so many different red flags that I missed along the way, just because I was excited for the position. So ultimately it ended up, nothing got taken, nothing got scammed, anything like that, but it definitely was an interesting experience to be targeted in that way.
Not all employment scams are this straightforward. Let's learn about how reshipping job scams work.
So people will get contacted in a similar manner, said you could work from home. We're an international company, and we need a person to represent us in the United States. And we're going to ship merchandise to you that we've bought, and then we're going to have you ship it to us in another country. And they will send an application. They will do interviews. and all of a sudden the person believes they've been hired by this company. And what the fraudsters will do will take stolen credit cards, stolen bank accounts, and they'll purchase stuff online and have it shipped to the new employee. And then once the new employee gets that merchandise, they're instructed to repackage it and ship it over to another country. And that's where the fraudsters are. But the whole time, this new employee feels they're doing something legitimate. This is a legitimate job. And all they're doing is facilitating the theft of that merchandise and then shipping it over to the fraudsters overseas.
It's important to note that beyond the financial burden of these scams, there's also non-financial impacts. For instance, these people have wasted a month of their time when they could have been looking for another job. They're back at square one. Of course, the financial impact is undeniable. They haven't been paid for a month, but they still have bills to pay. And now they can't pay them. They can't go buy groceries. They cannot pay their rent or their mortgage. There was a woman here in Connecticut that had that happen to her last year. She was expecting her first paycheck right before Christmas. She and her daughter didn't have a Christmas. Instead, they were staring at a tomato and a banana and trying to figure out how they were going to make those two pieces of fruit last for 3 days, because that's all they had.
It's so infuriating the lengths these criminals will go to. Now we're going to touch on one last scam that deals with identity fraud and, in some cases, unemployment benefits.
So one of the things we saw starting in 2021 and continuing in 2022 is that ID fraud, and I don't mean ID theft where somebody gets you to share your personal information, but ID fraud where a criminal takes your social security number, name, address, etc., and uses it against you. ID fraud in 2021 and 2022 really kind of took over the top billing. 21%, I think, of all scams, or about a quarter of all scams in 2022 were related to ID fraud. And the reality is these criminals have this information on so many of us. There's been so many data breaches, but when they get it, they don't use it right away. They wait. So what happened in 2020, 2021? A lot of government benefits out there, a lot of stimulus pays, a lot of unemployment. So in come the criminals with this mountain of personal information on Americans they have, and they start filing for benefits. They start filing for unemployment. They start taking out PPP loans. They start trying to claim stimulus money. And so we really saw this ID fraud sort of shoot up. Now, in 2022, a lot of those programs phased out. But that didn't mean the criminals stopped. They moved on to opening credit cards in other people's names. So operating with kind of this assumption that my personal information is probably out there already, and so there's some things I should probably do to protect myself. Credit freezes are one thing. Credit monitoring is another thing, a service. There's a lot of them out there that'll tell you if anybody tries to open a credit card or a credit application in your name is really important. And then preventative stuff like having a password manager, not using the same passwords on multiple login sites, especially anything that has your financial information or a credit card tied to it. So those are some things too that we can do, best practices, updating the operating software on not just your computer, but your phone. That's important too. So some of those things that we can do so we sort of passively know that we have some protections.
It's important to feel empowered in your job search. Here are a few more things to keep in mind while you or someone you know is looking for a job online.
Please do your due diligence and research whether a job posting is legitimate. For example, if there's a street address for an organization, type the address in an online search engine and see what comes up as the result. You can also do a search of a company's website and look up the name of a person who contacted you on different websites. You can also reach out to the company directly. Type in the company's name through the online search engine, find their website and their telephone number, and give them a call to make sure that they're indeed hiring for that job and that the person who posted the job or reached out to you is indeed legitimate.
Please share what you learned today with everyone in your network. And remember, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. If you've been targeted, call the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. Together we can catch these cons and flip the narrative when it comes to shame surrounding being a victim. Don't forget, there is help out there. Good luck with your job hunt. I hope you're feeling a little more prepared after watching our show. Thanks for joining us today on Fighting Fraud with AARP Connecticut. Make sure you like and subscribe and check back for new episodes.
Join us for events in your community. Go to aarp.org/CT events. Look for the Con Artist Playbook by AARP Connecticut.